Good afternoon, Owls fans, and welcome to Owls TV. And I'm your there we go. I have very poor reception today. I apologize. Getting ready to introduce the starting lineups for both teams. And winner of this match will be facing Delta as they defeated Wapahani 3-1 in the match just preceding this one. Owls will have faced the Trojans before and fell in 3 sets and hoping to have a better outcome today. Owls earlier this week defeated the Jay County Patriots in 3 sets to advance to the semifinals. And we're getting ready to introduce this lineup for the Owls. And the teams are going to meet at the net. Wish each other good luck. And the starting lineup for the Owls will have number 1, Lauren Nixon, number 15, Michael Ivy, number 6, Mara Perry, number 11, Abby Kessler, number 9, Mia Morrison, and number 18, Sophina Maynard. And number 4, Rory Powers is wearing the libero jersey today. She'll come into place of Kessler. Owls will have first serve. Powers is back to serve for the Owls. Waiting for the official call. And we're off. Cross court pass to Schaffmaster. Schaffmaster. Mayberry into the Owls block, and the Owls score first. Going up 1-0. Powers back to serve. Sends it cross court. Schaffmaster dumps it over. Middle of the court, and Trojans get their first point. And we're now tied at 1 point apiece. Wilkinson will be back to serve for the Owls. And that goes out of bounds, and the point goes to the Owls. Now leading 2-1. Freshman Lauren Nixon back to serve for the Owls. And into the net, and we'll go over to the Newcastle side, tied at 2 points apiece. Shaughnessy back to serve for the Trojans. Morrison, Ivy, she swings it around the double block and gets a point, and the Owls retake the lead 3-2. Number 3, Katie Scott, enters the lineup for the Owls. Scott lines up, sends it deep into the Newcastle. Schaffmaster runs it down. Schaffmaster sends it over, clipping the antenna on the way across, and the Owls take the point. Now leading 4-2. Scott again. And that one glanced just outside of the lines, and the point's going to go to Newcastle. Owls holding on to a 1-point lead, 4-3. Maryberry, Schaffmaster back to serve. Into the net, and the Owls get the easy point. Now leading 5-3. Like I care. And that point, sorry. Point goes to Newcastle. Owls continuing the lead, 5-4. Conway back to serve. Morrison. Perry dumps it. And Cox sends it down the line for Newcastle, and they get the point. And we're now tied at 5 points apiece. Conway serve. Middle of the court. Scott dives for it. Morrison into the block. Nixon's there to cover. Perry sends it to the back corner. Cox sends it across. Powers is there with the dig. Morrison through the block and gets a kill. And the Owls retake the lead, 6-5. Number 6 setter, junior Mara Perry back to serve. Sends it deep. And the Owls there with the block. That was Kessler and Nixon. And they get the point and go up 2-0, 7-5. Perry to serve once again. Schaffmaster to Schaffmaster. Dumped over Perry. Nixon with the assist. Kessler gets the kill. And the Owls go up 8-5. Perry back to serve. Just clears the net. Nixon, and that goes into that, and it'll be a side out for the Trojans. Owls leading by 2, 8-6. Melanie Schaffmaster to serve. Powers digs it up. Perry, Nixon from the right side. She gets the kill. And the Owls are back to a 3-point lead, 9-6. Number 18, Sophia Maynard enters the front row for the Owls. Morrison's back at the service line. Schaffmaster sends it to the rafters. It'll be a free ball over from Newcastle. Perry to Nixon. Over to Maynard and into the block. Owls try and run it down, but it's going to be a point for the Trojans. Owls leading 9-7. Bailey Cox will go back to serve for Newcastle. Morrison. Perry gets it up. Nixon down the middle. Schaffmaster into the net. And the Owls get the point. That'll be their 10th point of the first set. Now leading 10-7. And we've made the full rotation as freshman number 4, Rory Powers, is back to serve. And Schaffmaster down the middle, and that'll be a kill for the Trojans. Owls leading by 2, 10-8. Wilkinson's back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Nixon from the outside. Ooh, tight at the net, and Trojans miss time, and the Owls get the point, leading 11-8. Lauren Nixon serving for the Owls. High serve to the back row. Schaffmaster, and that's going to be tipped out of bounds. Last touch by Burris. Newcastle gets the serve. Owls holding on to a 2-point lead. Shipson back to serve. Morrison handles it. Ivy, and she gets the kill, and the Owls are back to a 3-point lead, 12-9. Katie Scott rotates into the lineup, and she'll back to serve for the Owls. And Smith with the kill for the Trojans. And we're on the back and forth battle. Owls continuing the lead, 12-10. And that lands out of bounds, and the Owls get the easy point, now leading 13-10. Senior Michael Ivy serving. And there's a quick dump from Melanie Schaffmaster for the point for the Trojans. Service goes back over to Newcastle. Owls leading 13-11. Scott. Roll shot for Morrison. And Wilkerson with the off-speed dump. And she gets the point. And the Trojans have closed within one. Owls leading 13-12. Conway serving for Newcastle. Powers, Perry, Kessler down the middle. Cox sends it cross court. Morrison handles it. Perry sends it, or Scott sends it forward. Nixon sends it over the net. Cox, and that will go long. And the Owls are back to a 2-point lead, 14-12. There's a dump from Schaffmaster Perry. Morrison. And tipped out of bounds by the Trojans. And the Owls are back to their 3-point lead, 15-12. Perry serving. And now it's going to go long and be an easy point for the Trojans. Melanie Schaffmaster goes back to serve. Scott, ooh, low pass. And the Owls can't get to it. And the Trojans have closed within one, 15-14. The elder Shaftmasters continuing to serve. And that'll go long. The Owls get the point. They watch it trail out of bounds. Owls now leading 16-14. Sophia Maynard enters the front row for the Owls. Morrison's serve deep into Cox. Morrison. Perry backs back to Nixon. It's tipped off the block. Cox again, and that's going to go long. She got too far under it. And the Owls get the point, leading 17-14. And with that, Newcastle's going to take a timeout, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back, Owls fans. Morrison's going to continue to serve. The Owls holding on to a 3-point lead, 17-14. Into the middle. There's the block. And the lift's going to be called on Burris, and it's going to go over to the Trojans. Owls holding a 2-point lead, 17-15. Bailey Cox is serving for Newcastle. Into the net. And makes another easy point for the Owls. Been numerous serving errors on the Trojans today, that helping with the Owls' lead. Powers. Tipped over. Nixon. Maynard. Dug up. Shaftmaster. And tipped and goes out of bounds. And point goes to the Trojans. Owls holding their 2-point lead, 18-16. Cole Wilkerson at the service line. And that goes out, and the Owls regain their 3-point lead, 19-16. Lauren Nixon next to serve for the Owls. Right into the middle. Powers digs up the Shaftmaster swing. Maynard dug up. Oh, and Owls can't get there, and that point's going to go over to Newcastle. Owls continuing the lead, 19-17. Shenison back to serve. Oh. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, and she gets the kill. And the Owls get their 20th point, leading 20-17. Number 3, Katie Scott comes in to serve for the Owls. She sends it deep, tight to the net. Smith, and the Owls can't get there. As Nixon got it up, but Scott couldn't crawl up to get the dig. Owls leading 20-18. Take a brief stop as we wipe up some moisture on the court. Shaftmaster's back to serve. And that rolls over the net. And it'll be an ace for the Trojans. Owls lead 20-19. And this time, the Owls take the timeout, and we'll be back. All our broadcasts are going to be commercial free due to IHSAA rules. And we're back, Owls. Shaftmaster dug up by Powers. Ivy into the block. And we're now tied at 20 points apiece. Shaftmaster to serve once again. Into the net, and the Owls retake the lead, 21-20. Ivy's going to return, or Kessler returns to the front row. Ivy's back at the service line. Cox rolls it over. Nixon runs up and gets it. Perry. Morrison rolls it over to the block. Quick dump over by the Owls, but Smith's there waiting for it, and they get the point. And we're tied at 21 points apiece. Zoe Conway back to serve. Morrison, Perry. Morrison again. And tipped out of bounds, and the Owls get the point, leading 22-21. Perry's back to serve. Cox. Shaftmaster to Shaftmaster off the block. And that Lillian's inside the court, and we're going to be tied at 22. Teams continuing the battle back and forth. Shaftmaster, Scott, Perry, Nixon from the outside. Cox tips over the block. Powers gets it up. Perry's going to send it over at a free ball. And Wilkinson with the kill down the middle. And Newcastle takes the lead, 23-22. And Coach Dodge is going to call a timeout to regroup. We'll be back shortly. Shaftmaster to serve. 24-22. This will be set point for Newcastle. Shaftmaster serve. Out of bounds, and the Owls continue to fight. Trailing 23-24. Maynard returns to the front row. Morrison's back serve. Wilkinson gets a kill, and that's the end of the first set. And the Owls fall to Newcastle 25-23. And the teams are going to switch sides, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back, Owls fans, as we get ready to start the second set. Owls fell to Newcastle 23-25 in the first set. A late run by the Trojans gave them just over the top to take that, as the Owls had a 2 to 3 point lead most of the match, but then it dropped it at the end. Newcastle will have first serve, and Cox will be serving for the Trojans. Morrison, Ivy into the block and gets the point. Owls score first here in the second set. Nixon's going to go back to serve. Shaftmaster And out of bounds. Point to the Owls. Now leading 2-0. Morrison, or not Morrison, Nixon once again back to serve. And mishandled by Schaffmaster. And the Owls open up a 3-point lead. 3-0 here in the second set. Schaffmaster dug up by Powers. And Owls can't get there. That'll be the first point for the Trojans. The second set. Owls leading 3-1. And Scott rolls it over the net. Perry. Maynard with the swing. And Schaffmaster's swing lands just in bounds, and that'll be a point for the Trojans. Owls leading 3-2. Emily Scott, sister to Katie Scott on the Burris Owls, both wearing number 3 today. Ivy, and that's dug up and overpass. Nixon to Perry. Ivy again. Dumped over by Newcastle. The quick dump by Perry. And the outside swing from Schaffmaster. And the Owls, and we're tied at 3 points apiece. Scott back to serve once again. Morrison, Powers, Maynard into the block, and the Owls get the point. Owls back to a 1-point lead, 4-3. Katie Scott in the serve. Sends it all the way across the court. Tradison with the swing and lands it in the middle of the back row for the Owls, or of the Owls. Point for Newcastle. And we're tied at 4. Shunnison goes back to serve. High serve handled by Powers. Perry sets up Ivy and she gets a kill. Owls retake the lead, 5-4. And Ivy will go back to the service line, and Kessler comes into the front row. Ivy serve. Smith through the Owls block, and she gets the point. And we're now tied at 5 points apiece. Schaffmaster's back to serve. Scott digs it up. Kessler. And they get the point. And Owls are back up 6-5. Perry's back to serve. Mayberry rolls it over from the back row. Nixon with the out of serve. Perry with the swing. And there's a dump from Schaffmaster to the open spot on the court. And the Trojans get the point. And we're tied at 6. Conway's back to serve. Nixon down the middle, into the block. Kessler this time, and she gets it around the block. And the Owls retake the lead, 7-6. Maynard with the serve, or Maynard enters the front row. Morrison will be serving. Just clears the net. And away from out of bounds is going to be a double contact on Newcastle, and the Owls go up 8-6. Morrison's going to be back to serve. Conway gets it up. Shaftmaster. And it goes out of bounds. Point goes to the Owls. Newcastle is arguing that there was a tip. And the call remains. The Owls get the point. Now leading 9-6. Mayberry, this time off the block. Maynard. Perry sends it over to Nixon. She sends it to the back corner. It'll be a free ball. Owls reset. Perry to Powers. Nixon again. Cox off the block. Morrison sends it over to Nixon again. Dumped over and bounced off the Owls. And Newcastle gets a point. Owls leading 9-7. Into the net, and the Owls get the point. And that'll be their 10th point of the second set, now leading 10-7. Freshman Powers back to serve. Roll, high, short serve. Off to Sashi. Powers. Ivy one hands it up, and it'll be a free ball over. Wilkinson. And net violation on the Owls, and that point's going to go to Newcastle. Owls holding a 2-point lead, 10-8. Cox to serve. Morrison handles it. Ivy off and through the block. And the Owls get the point, going up 11-8. Nixon to serve. Mayberry. Shaftmaster with the cross-court kill. And we're going to go back over to Newcastle. Emily Scott, the other Scott sister, serving for Newcastle as the Owls lead 11-9. Morrison. Ivy, and she gets the kill. And the Owls go back up by 3, 12-9. And we'll have the other Scott sister, Katie Scott, back to serve. Shaftmaster sets Shaftmaster. She throws it over. And that's going to hit 3 of the Owls and land on the court. And that point's going to go over to the Trojans. Shunnison back to serve for Newcastle. Perry, or Powers to Perry. Morrison. And bounced around into the net, and the Owls get the point, going up 13-10. Ivy goes back to serve. And the swing down the middle from Shaftmaster, and they get the point. Owls leading 13-11. Shaftmaster's going to go back to serve. Scott handles it. Kessler on the slide. She waits for it, but gets it inbounds, and the Owls go back up by 3, 14-11. Perry's going to go back to serve. Owls up 3, 14-11. And Cox with the swing. It goes off the Owls block, out of bounds. And Newcastle's back within 2, 14-12. And another seesaw back and forth battle between these two very good teams. Morrison to Perry. Nixon down the middle. And that goes out of bounds. The Trojans are within 1, 14-13. Conway. Kessler! And she gets the kill. And the Owls are back up by 2, 14-13. Mia Morrison enters the front row. Or not Morrison. Is back serving. Daisha Carmichael entered the front row. Back row attack. Perry, Nixon with the out of system. Carmichael rolls it over the net. And Mayberry gets the kill into the Owls block and landing out of bounds. Newcastle within 1. Owls leading 15-14. Shadmaster back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Kessler down the middle. And that goes out of bounds. Oh. And a net violation on the Trojans, going to give the point to the Owls. Now up 16-14. Powers is going to go back to serve. Shonison, and that goes out of bounds. And the Owls are back to their 3-point lead, 17-14. Trojans made a little run at it, and the Owls fought back and retook the 3-point lead. Conway, Shaftmaster, and that lands inside the lines, and the Owls lose the point. And the scoreboard says 17-16. Some discussion at the scorer's table. And everything checks out. And Cox is going to go back to serve for the Trojans. Powers, Perry, Ivy, and that goes off the block. And Shaftmaster with the kill. And the Trojans have closed within 1, 17-16. Cox back to serve. Sophia Miner returns to the front row for the Owls. Short serve, Miner. Morrison. Nixon from the right side. Shonison tips it into the blocks, and the Owls can't get it over, landing on the Burris side of the net, and we're tied at 17 points apiece. Cox to serve. And they'll get the ace, and the Trojans take their first lead, 18-17 in the second set. And Coach Dodge is going to take a timeout, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back, Owls fans, as we continue in the second set. Newcastle Trojans leading 18-17 over the Muncie Burris Owls. And, Owls get that up. Chefmaster sends it down the line and gets the point. Newcastle's now is up by 2, 19-17. Owls needing a side out. Morrison to Perry. Nixon off the middle. A tip out of bounds. And the Owls get the point, trailing 18-19. Nixon going back to serve. Owls needing a little run. Shenderson. Ivy with the big swing. Shaftmaster sends it cross court. Maynard gets it. And that goes into the stands, and it'll be the 20th point for Newcastle. Owls trailing by 2. Scott to serve. Into the net, and an easy point for the Owls. Owls trailing 19-20. Katie Scott going back to serve for the Owls. Conway to Shaftmaster. Shenderson, Scott, the overpass. Smith dumps it over. And Newcastle takes a 2-point lead, 21-19. Shenderson's going to go back to serve. Morrison handles it. Perry runs it down. Morrison runs it, sends it to the back of the court. Smith with the swing and the kill. And Newcastle now has a 3-point lead, leading 22-19. And Coach Dodge uses his last timeout to rally his Owls. And we're back, Owls fans, as we continue the action. Owls trailing 22-19 in this second set. Shenderson. Morrison handles it. Perry. Ivy from the right side. And that's going to be tipped into the bench. And the Owls get the point. Senior Michael Ivy's going to go back to serve. Owls desperately needing a run to stay alive here in this second set and not go down 2-0. Smith rolls it over, and she finds the middle of the court. And the Trojans go up by 3, 23-20. Shaftmasters to serve. All right, tossing the jump serve. Powers handles it. Kessler. And that's going to roll off the fingertips to a couple different Trojans. Owls get the point, but trailing by 2. Perry goes back to serve. Shaftmaster sends it cross court, out of bounds. And the Owls have closed within 1. Trailing 23-22. Mara Perry to serve once again. Dumped over. Out of bounds. And we have a tie game. We're tied at 23 points. And Newcastle's going to take a timeout. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in today to watch the match. We truly appreciate it. You can follow all of Burris Athletics at Burris1 on Twitter. That's at Burris Athletics 1 on Twitter. As well as all the information about high school sectionals, finals and scores on Twitter at IHSAA1. That's IHSAA1 on Twitter. And all the latest about my broadcast on Owls TV1, both on Twitter and Facebook. Owls 2 points away from taking the second set. But whenever the Owls will make a run, the Trojans have come right back. Perry, Shunson, Shaftmaster pushes it back. Scott sends it forward. Nixon. And Smith was with the block, but it lands on the Trojan side. And the Owls will have set point. Perry back to serve. Owls up 24-23. Deep into Newcastle territory. Shunderson. Perry has it. Nixon. Morrison into the block. And it rolls over to the Newcastle side. Shunderson tips and sends it to the Newcastle side. And the Owls take the second set 25-23. And we'll be back for the start of the third set. set. And we're tied at one match apiece. Excuse me, one set apiece. Owls fell in the first set, 23-25, and then took the second one, 25-23. Definitely been a back and forth battle between the two teams today. Both very, very good. Powers back to serve. Shaftmaster sends it over. Nixon from the right side, into the block, Perry. Morrison sends it over to Maynard. She sends it deep into the Newcastle territory. And Shaftmaster pushes it into the block and lands on the outside of the court. And Trojans take the first point. Scott's going to go back to serve as the Trojans hold a 1-point lead. Morrison. Nixon. And that didn't clear the tape, and that'll be a point for the Trojans. They now lead 2-0. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, she sends it through the block, and they get the point, and that'll be the first point for the Owls, but they trail 1-2 early in the third set. Nixon goes back to serve. Shaftmaster, but it rolls off the fingertips and lands on the outside of the court. Owls trailing 3-1. Shunison back to serve. Morrison handles it. Ivy, and she splits the defenders and gets the point. Owls are within one. That's going to go back to serve for the Owls. Jonathan Smith rolls over. Powers got to dig. Perry sends it over to Morrison. Bounces it off the net and gets the point. And the Owls have tied it up 3 points apiece. Scott. And the back dump from Shaftmaster picks up the point, and the Trojans retake the lead 4-3. Scott, Perry, Ivy with the kill. And that's going to leave a mark on Conway. And the Owls have tied it up at 4 points apiece. Ivy will go back to serve. Cox, and she finds the back of the court. And the Trojans retake the lead 5-4. Conway back to serve for Newcastle. Scott, Perry, and Kessler. Oh, they dug it up. And into the net. Point goes to the Owl, and we're now tied at 5 points apiece. Perry goes back to serve. She served the last run for the Owls to retake the lead in the second set. Shaftmaster dumps it to the back corner. Newcastle leading 6-5. Shaftmaster to serve. Scott. Morrison runs up under it, rolls it over. Wilkerson. Scott with a diving dig. And One too many touches there by the Owls, and that point's going to go to the Trojans. They lead 7-5. Kessler, into the net. And the Trojans have opened up a 3-point lead, 8-5. Schaffmaster to continuing to serve. Scott sends it to Perry. Over to Nixon. Cox sends it over. Morrison with the swing. And Lenny line. And the Owls get the point. And the side out. But trail 6-8. Mia Morrison back to serve. Give a shout out to Coach Morrison watching us down in Kentucky today. And all of the Eastern Kentucky football staff. Shunnason with the cross-court kill. And the Trojans go up by 3, 9-6. Cox is going to go back to serve. Morrison, Perry. Nixon down the middle. Schaffmaster tipped by the Owls and goes out of bounds. And it'll be a 4-point lead for the Trojans. Now up 10-6. Owls needing a side out here. Not wanting the Trojans to get too much of a lead. Short serve. Morrison runs up. Perry. Kessler pushes it over deep. Schaffmaster sends it out of bounds. And the Owls get the point. Oh, net violation on the Owls. The point goes over to the Newcastle side. They now have a 5-point lead, 11. Cox is going to go back to serve. Morrison, Perry, Nixon from the right side, and that lands out of bounds. And Coach Dodge is going to take a timeout as the Trojans have opened up a 6-point lead, 12-6 over the Burris Owls. And welcome back, Owls fans, as we continue here in the third set. The Trojans have built a 6-point lead, 12-6. Morrison, Perry, Kessler, and that's going to land on the outside. Owls definitely needing a side out here. And there's an ace. Cox continuing to serve. Newcastle leading 14-6. Morrison, Perry, Kessler, and there's a kill. And that ends the run, but the Owls are in a 7-point hole. Trailing 14-7. Powers back to serve. Get a shout out to Coach Powers joining us today. Appreciate everyone viewing. Owls get to serve and send it right back as it goes into the net. And that'll be the 15th point for Newcastle. Owls down by 8. Scott out of bounds and goes right back to the Owls. Owls desperately need a run here. This one's going to quickly get away from them. Nixon's going to go back to serve. Shunnison sends it across the court, and they get the kill. And they're back to their 8-point lead. Leading 16. Need to take these miscues and mistakes by the Trojans if they're going to continue to fight. Scott sends it deep. Schaffmaster waits for it. Scott digs it up. Ivy, and it's tipped out of bounds. And the Owls get the point, and that'll be their 10th. Scott to serve once again. And that sails out of bounds. Costly error for the Owls. Trailing by 7. Schaffmaster, the other Schaffmaster sister back to serve. Morrison digs it up. Perry runs it down. Miscommunication between Ivy and Morrison, and that drops on the court, and Coach Dodge is going to take his final timeout. Owls trailing 18-10. And return the action now. Owls trailing 10-18. Schaffmaster's going to go back to serve. Owls needing to dig deep. Morrison handles the serve. Perry. Ivy. Conway handles it. And that's going to be a point for the Owls. Ivy back to serve. And Schaffmaster dumps it over. Owls trailing 11-19. Conway back to serve. Morrison into the net. And that'll be the 20th point for the Trojans. Conway to serve. Morrison handles it. Perry. Kessler tips it over the block. One arm by Schaffmaster, and it goes over. Kessler again. And that sailed just outside the line. And I believe it's a net violation on the Trojans, and that'll save the Owls and give them the point. Owls need to take advantage as they trail 12-20. Perry's going to go back to serve. Schaffmaster into the Owls block. Cox sends it over. Scott's is there. Perry sends it over to Morrison into the Newcastle block. Nixon back to Morrison. She gets it over to the block this time. And she'll get the point as it bounces off a couple of the Newcastle players and goes into the bench. Owls trailing 13-20, but continuing to fight here in this third set. Cox tips it over. Morrison quickly gets there. The back set to Nixon. Into the block. Nixon with the quick hand sends it over. Chefmaster tips it over to the block. Nixon. Kessler. Morrison gets it over. Great hustle play by all the Owls there. Chefmaster again, and it lands inside the line. And they get the point. Owls trailing 13-21. Owls are fighting. Scott, Perry. Ooh, the free ball over. Shevson sends it right back. Nixon. Perry. Kessler swings. Morrison there with the block. And the Owls get the point. Trailing 14-21. Morrison's going to go back to serve. Maynard entered the front row for the Owls. Shunderson lines up. Morrison digs it. Perry. Free ball sent over from Nixon. And the kill from Wilkinson. Owls trailing 14-22. Cox goes back to serve. Morrison. Kessler. And that goes out of bounds, and that'll be the 23rd point. Cox once again. Morrison handles it. Perry gets it up. Maynard sends it over. Wilkerson, Perry, Nixon. Perry rolls it over the net. And the block by Kessler. Nixon gets the point. Owls trail 15-23. Powers is going to go back to serve. And Shunderson gets the point. And that'll bring up set point for the Trojans. Gracie Bowers, senior, comes in to serve. Morrison to Perry. Ivy out of bounds, and that's the end of the second set. Owls fall 15-25. And we'll be back shortly for the fourth set. Hoping the Owls can fight back and take that. And we're getting ready to start the fourth set here at Sectional 24 semifinals as the Lady Owls will be battling the Newcastle Trojans. Newcastle, just a quick recap, Newcastle took the first set 25 to 23. Owls battled back to take the second one 25 to 23 and then fell in the third set 15 to 25. Owls need to take this set and force a decisive fifth set. Bailey Cox will be back to serve for the Trojans. Powers. Ivy, and she gets a kill. Owls get the first point. Nixon's going to go back to serve. And Shaftmaster sends it cross court, landing just inside. And we're now tied at 1 point apiece. Bowers back to serve. Out of bounds. The Owls get the point. Now lead 2-1. Katie Scott enters to serve for the Owls. Shaftmaster sends it over. Owls diving for it but can't get to it, and we're going to be tied at 2 points apiece. Shunnesson's back to serve. In the net, and the Owls now lead 3-2. Owls need to take advantage of these errors by the Newcastle. Ivy back to serve. Net violation by Smith for Newcastle. Owls get the point, now lead 4-2. Shaftmaster, and that's going to be tipped out of bounds by the Owls. Service will go over to the Trojans. Owls leading 4-3 early in the fourth set. Morrison digs it up. Kessler, oh, not quite enough to tip it over to the net. And that will tie us up at 4 points. Shaftmaster, and she gets the ace, just putting it inside the line. Owls now trailing 4-5. Shaftmaster with the high toss and the jump serve. And there's another ace. Now leading. And Coach Dodge, not wanting this one to get too out of hand, takes a timeout, and we'll be back shortly. And we return to the action. Owls trailing 4-6. Shaftmaster serving. And into the net. And the Owls get their 5th point. Trailing by 1. Perry back to serve. Cox off the block. Out of bounds, less touched by the Owls. Newcastle back to a 2-point lead, 7-5. Zoe Conway is going to go back to serve. Oh, Morrison handles it. Nixon's going to send it over. Cox gets it. Scott handles it. Nixon from the right side into the block. Perry resets it. Morrison rolls it to the middle. There's a dump. Perry has it. Nixon. Morrison sends it to the back of the court. Cox into the block, and the Owls get the point. They trail 6-7. Daisha Carmichael comes in the front row for the Owls. Morrison goes back to serve. Shaftmaster says Shaftmaster. Morrison. Oh, she sends a quick pass to the front. But the Owls can't get there in time. And the Trojans back to a 2-point lead, 8-6. Shaftmaster goes back to serve. Kessler down the middle. Conway with the dig. Shaftmaster back to her sister. And into the Owls block. And the Owls have closed within 1, 7-8. Powers back to serve. Shunderson, and she'll get the kill. Owls now trailing 2 again, 7-9. Cox back to serve. Perry, Ivy, and that's just outside the line on the cross-court shot. And that'll be a 3-point lead for Newcastle. Owls trailing 7-10. Short serve. Morrison automatically sends it over. Mayberry tipped out of bounds. Point goes to the Trojans. Owls need to stop, or they can't let Newcastle get out ahead with a big lead again. The Newcastle lead is 4 right now. Cox, Powers, Ivy, into the block, and it sits there on the net and rolls to the outside. And that's a 5-point lead for the Trojans. And Coach Dodge is going to take a timeout and try and regroup. And we're continuing here in the fourth set. Owls trailing 7-12. Desperately looking for a side out to stay within reach of the Newcastle Trojans. Short serve. Morrison runs up. Perry one-hands it. And it's going to be a left. Maynard returns to the front row for the Owls. Owls trailing 7-13. Perry, Ivy into the block, and that's bounced to the back of the court. And Newcastle's doubled the score, 14-7. Powers, and she knocks it into the bench. Bailey Cox continuing to serve. Powers handles this one. Nixon from the right side. Conway tips this one open over the bench. And that'll stop the run. But unfortunately, the damage has been done. Owls are trailing by 7, 15-8 against a very good Newcastle team that's going to be difficult to fight back to. Nixon sends it deep. And Schaffmacher lets a swing into the Owls block, landing on the Owls side. Owls trailing 8-16. Morrison runs to get it. Ivy sends it to the back corner and gets the point. Owls now trailing by 7, 9-16. Scott enters the lineup. Conway sends it to Schaffmaster, sends it to her sister. Powers with the big dig. Morrison sends it back over. Thrown over by Schaffmaster. Quick hands by Morrison. And that goes out of bounds, and the Owls get the point. Owls are fighting here in this fourth set, but down 6, 10-16. Scott sends it deep. Cox sends it over. Scott. Ivy sends it back. Conway's there. Schaffmaster across the court and inbounds, and that point's going to go to the Trojans. Owls trailed 10-17. Shutterson serves deep. Powers is going to handle it. Perry runs it down to set it to Morrison. And Smith and Schaffmaster there with the block. Owls trailing 10-18. Needing to dig deep here in this fourth set. Morrison, Perry, Ivy, and she gets the point. Powering it into the Newcastle block, landing on Trojan side. Ivy's going to go back to serve. Smith, and she finds the middle of the court and the point. Owls trail 11-19. Schaffmaster's going to go back to serve. Scott, Perry, Morrison, over the block, in the bounds. Owls trailing 12-19. Perry will go back to serve. Hoping to make some magic here for the Owls. Cox. Powers gets it. Scott's going to send it to the front. Morrison tips it. And they say it didn't clear the tape, and that point's going to go to Newcastle. Cox is going to send it over. Morrison handles it. Kessler on the slide. And that rolls out of bounds. Owls trailing 12-21. And into that. Owls continuing to fight. Maynard returns to the front row. She replaces Scott. Morrison's going to go back to serve. Cox lines up off the blocks. Powers is there to cover it. Nixon from the right side. There's the roll shot. Nixon again, and she gets a kill. Owls are within 7, 14-21. Morrison sends it all the way across the court. Wilkerson, Nixon, Maynard one-arms it. Kessler with a quick hand, and she gets a point. Good heads-up play there by the Owls to keep it alive and get the point. Owls trailing 15-21. Pushed over by Shaftmaster. Morrison was there. Maynard sends it deep. Splits the defenders. And the Owls are on a 4-point run. Trailing 16-21. Cox, Shaftmaster to her sister. And that's tipped out of bounds, and that'll be the end of the run. Owls trailing 16-22. And there's an 8 for Shaftmaster. And the Owls are running out of points here in the season. Trailing 23-26. Powers, Nixon, Maynard, Wilkerson, and that went inbounds. And that'll bring up match point as the Owls trail 24-16. Melanie Shaftmaster is going to be back to serve. Powers handles it. Perry. Nixon. She gets the point. And the Owls may stay alive. Powers is going to go back to serve. Owls can't have any errors whatsoever. And that'll be it. And Owls fall to the Newcastle Trojans 17-25. 3-1. And that'll be the end for the season for the Owls. I want to thank everyone for viewing. Truly appreciated broadcasting all of you. And hope to join you next year. I want to thank everyone for, their support of the Owls. And we will see you all later. Thank you.